When different wooden elements and building components are manufactured, weather protection becomes crucial. During transportation to the site or storage in various locations, the shipment must withstand different and often harsh weather conditions, such as rain, thunderstorms, and blizzards. It's important to understand that prefabricated elements are transported over land by truck or train, as well as by sea on a ship. And different road conditions can also impact these components. For example, if the shipping route crosses oceans, the cargo may be exposed to harsh sea conditions for an extended period, which can cause irreversible damage. Both individual elements and large modules must be securely protected from exposure to precipitation during their storage and transportation. Dampening of parts of the structure can also go unnoticed at first glance, but later cause already serious moisture damage. Also, at the factory storage area or other temporary storage locations, the cargo must be well protected not only from precipitation, but also from ground and soil moisture. Now, let's look at what needs to be done to protect different types of prefabricated elements from weather conditions during transportation and storage. In the case of element buildings, there are two ways how to pack them, on the work table or later on. Elements, like internal wall element, that are fully completed on the work table and do not require additional works, such as installation of windows, can be packed immediately after the assembly of the element. However, elements that require, for example, window installations or are already vertically stored are packed later on. Weatherproofing the element on the working table involves two stages. Initially, after finishing work on one side of the element, the required length of plastic film is measured and cut. The entire element is then covered with the film. It is important to mark the element number on the frame. Lastly, the film is secured to the frame using either staples or tape. The element is then turned over on the work table, which can be done using a bridge crane with a hoist and spreader beam. Next, all the necessary works are completed on the other side of the element before wrapping it entirely in the film. As next, holes are cut in the bottom film to accommodate the lifting straps, and the straps are pulled through these openings. The edges of the bottom film are then secured using tape or staples. The required length of film is measured and cut to cover the element again. The top film is attached to the bottom film with tape or staples to ensure proper sealing. If needed, the element is lifted into a position that allows proper securing of the film on the opposite side. During the packing process, it is crucial to ensure that the film is applied smoothly and that the bottom edge does not end up inside the bag. This precaution helps prevent moisture from being trapped, which could lead to condensation during storage. As mentioned before, elements that have windows are usually packed later after the installation is done. Although packaging film is already added to the top of the element on the working table, final packing of element is done vertically. For this, element must be first lifted using a bridge crane and a hoist. The element is packed so that it hangs in the air and does not come into contact with the floor. First, the A-frame support used for storing the element is removed. A plastic film attached to the element during the last work process should now cover the entire element. The film should be properly secured to the element, and, if necessary, the previously installed film can be opened to re-secure it. Next, the film is attached to the element's frame using the stapler. If packing horizontally or vertically, all places where the packaging film has cuts or joints, it needs to be sealed with tape or additional film to prevent moisture from getting through the openings to the element. Often, a narrower strip of stronger film is added to the top of the element, providing better protection against weather conditions. Therefore, it is crucial to make sure that the element is securely wrapped into film and there are no cuts and open joints. As a rule, all the elements of the project are packaged separately, and each package is marked with the name of the project. number, or just the number and type of the element. For example, EW101 indicating exterior wall element with the number of 101. All elements are generally packed into so-called large packs. In this way, there is less lifting work, and a compact package is also easier to transport. Large packs are assembled according to the packing scheme, taking into account the order of erection of the element building. As multiple elements are packed together in a large pack, and the number and size of the base beams added to the large pack depend on its length and width. Before packing, check the quantity and arrangement of the elements in the pack. Individually packed elements are lifted into the large pack, and a plywood sheet is attached to the straight edge of the pack. The plywood sheet must be in one piece and cover the entire width of the cargo. After lifting the element into the pack, the element is secured with screws through the plywood sheet into the frame of the element. The element type and number are written on the plywood sheet according to the element's position in the pack. Finally, the lifting straps are removed from the hoist. To complete the packing, base beams are added to the pack if necessary, and a film hat is placed over all the elements in the large pack. Depending on the manufacturer, a double film hat may also be required. Film is secured, and any excess film is tightly fastened to the elements. Finally, small plywood pieces are attached over the film with screws. Lastly, packing tape is secured around the element. The large pack of elements is now ready. A pack label is added, and it is stored in the warehouse according to the loading order of the shipment. Adjacent elements of the building, made of impregnated material, are not filmed separately, but the entire package is covered with a film hat. And some elements, for example, roof elements, can be unpacked at all. More detailed information on this can be found in the respective job descriptions of companies. The modules are ready for packing when all the works in module are done. Quite often, several building components and materials, also furniture that is necessary for the completion of work on the construction site, is inserted in the module for shipping. As the module is empty, then it's reasonable to locate there some building parts and components to save costs from transportation. Typical additional shipments include items such as parquet packs, various construction boards, mineral wool packs, and electrical installation accessories. All products placed inside the module must be securely fixed to prevent shifting or damage during transport, whether at sea or during lifting. Before wrapping, it's important to protect any parts that protrude from the module. To do this, all sharp edges are covered with appropriate tape to prevent them from damaging the film. Depending on the type of module, it may also be necessary to set the windows to a microventilation position. If needed, protective beams are installed under the window and door frames to prevent deformation by the lifting slings when the module is lifted. The floor's finishing layer should be protected with special materials to prevent damage during transport or handling. For example, parquet or ceramic tiles should be covered with construction cardboard, strong paper, or other protective material before packing the module. High traffic areas, such as hallways, should also be covered with thin, durable fiberboard, with the boards or tiles secured to each other, or the floor using temporary tape. If the module has open side walls, then one of the options for stiffening the module is to install temporary transport supports and tensioning straps. Before installing temporary supports, it is necessary to make sure that the interior finish has dried for at least 24 hours in order to avoid installing the supports on undried paint and thereby damage the interior finish. The location of the supports is indicated at the assembly plan. In the following video, you can see temporary transport supports that supports the open side wall of the module while lifting it during the erection process of the building. There are several different options to pack the modules. When packing, you can use either a regular wrapping film or a special film that shrinks. It's also called as a thermal film. Let's see more closely how to package modules when using regular wrapping film. First, we must ensure that all facade work, external works, and internal works on the module are completed. In some factories, this can be confirmed by scanning the QR code of the module. In case of any issues or questions, it is necessary to contact the head of the relevant work section. It is also essential to check that all required materials and fastening accessories for packaging are present. The packaging process begins by wrapping the film around the module. The film is started and ended at the edge of the corridor opening or near the transport support, leaving a small overlap of about 30 centimeters. The film is rolled around the module, and simultaneously, it is attached to the upper side of module with clips. It is important to ensure that the film extends at least 5 centimeters onto the floor to avoid any shortage of film at the bottom edge later. Once the film is wrapped around the module, the excess film is cut off, and the edge is secured with staples. The film is then attached to the upper edge of the module. It is crucial to first ensure that the covering material on top of the module is turned up. The film is folded back on the side, a batten is placed on it, and it is nailed. The covering is then turned back over the edge of the module. The next fastening batten is used to nail the top covering to the module. To wrap the bottom edge of the module, a batten is placed under the bottom edge of the film, and the film is stapled to it. The film, along with the batten, is then folded under the edge of the module and nailed in place. After packing the module with film, ventilation flaps can be installed on the side walls of the module. These flaps are used to ventilate any moisture that remains inside the module after interior work, such as painting. The ventilation flaps should be installed at each corner. All corners should also be taped to prevent moisture from entering the module. Additionally, any areas that are damaged or potentially damaged during packing must be sealed with special tape. When the filming of the module is finished, it must be marked so that the construction site knows what the specific module is and where it must be located in the building. When marking, the necessary information is applied to the film with an aerosol. Different manufacturers may use different information, such as the name and designation of the project, number of the module, actual weight if possible, lifting places with an arrow up, locations of temporary supports box with a cross, locations of opening fillings, logo of the manufacturer and the customer if required. The information must be easily visible on the side. As the final step, lifting slings are installed on the module if necessary. When lifting slings are pre-installed at the factory, it saves time at the port or construction site because the module can be lifted immediately without the need for additional preparation. This process depends on the manufacturer and the specific order. To install the lifting slings, it may be necessary to climb onto the module. Depending on the company's safety protocols, safety equipment might be required. The locations for the lifting slings are marked on the film according to the production drawing. Once the slings are correctly positioned, they are secured with small pieces of plywood and screws. The module is now securely protected from exposure to precipitation during storage and transportation. The packed module is then transported to the outside storage area. In addition to regular film, modules are also packed with thermal film. Thermal film is a durable packaging material that shrinks when exposed to heat. In the packing area, the modules are wrapped in thermal film, which is then heated using a gas flame. This causes the film to shrink tightly around the modules, ensuring a secure fit. This process creates a seamless barrier, preventing moisture from penetrating the structure through the joints. The correctly sized thermal film is rolled onto the module and then tightly heated around the module with a torch. This prevents water from entering the module. To protect the packing film when lifting with lifting slings, a full-length protective beam is installed if necessary on the upper long edge of the module. Similarly to packing with ordinary film, ventilation flaps can also be installed. Packing the module in the film depends significantly on the factory that produced the module, as well as on the specific design solution, including which packing film and method of filming must be used. Therefore, it is always necessary to follow the employer's instructions when covering the module with a film. When storing elements, special wooden A-shaped supports are used to ensure the stability of the elements during storage. These supports are removed before loading the element packages onto trucks. It is important to check that the base beams under the elements support them and help prevent contact with the ground, which could cause moisture damage to the elements. Elements are generally stored at the warehouse in the order in which they will be loaded onto the vehicle. Each element must rest on a solid foundation. During storage, it must be checked that the element, placed in the package, does not protrude lifting slings, which may cause accidents. When storing the module, it is essential to protect the floor element from potential moisture and ensure proper ventilation from the ground. To achieve this, the module must be supported at a height of at least 180 to 200 millimeters above the ground. Storing the module directly on the ground or substrate is prohibited, including when it is on a trailer or a ship. The modules must be stored on top of the base beams, at the specified locations indicated on the module. The base beams must be level. During storage, it is important to check that the module rests evenly on all the base beams and that the bottom of the module remains straight. If necessary, pieces of plywood should be added to the base beams to create a uniform supporting surface. Modules are generally not stored more than 2 floors. If the modules are installed one on top of the other, then the lower floor modules of the building must be stored under the upper floor modules. On a daily basis, it must be checked that the packaging film is not damaged and the modules haven't shifted. Ventilation flaps needs to be also checked regularly in order to ventilate the moisture that has been accumulated in the module. As modules might remain in storage for a long time, and transportation to the construction site may include sea transport and waiting at the port area. It is very important that modules are packed securely to prevent any damage to the module.